Normally, you're the only person that's paying attention to what you're doing. If you're at an event and you feel like you're standing in a corner not talking to anyone, you're probably the only person noticing that.
I'm Sam G, a triple registered architect who has practiced across South Africa, Australia, and the USA. This is your design passport: real stories, practical pathways, and global design ideas to help you build a career and a life that travels with you. Ready? Let's stamp your passport. Welcome back to Your Design Passport, the podcast where we explore architecture and design career journeys, especially the experiences that shape us as we move across countries, industries, and different stages of our professional lives. One of the things I've realized throughout my career journey, working across South Africa, Australia, and now the United States, is this: architecture careers are rarely built alone. So much of this profession is shaped through relationships. The people who guide us, the people who open doors, the people who introduce us to opportunities we didn't even know existed. And when you move to a new city or country, networking suddenly becomes far more than just a professional skill. It becomes a way of building community and belonging. Today's guest is someone who deeply understands the value of connection within the architecture industry. Cassidy Jones is an architect, advocate for emerging professionals, and someone passionate about supporting women in architecture and creating stronger industry communities. Alongside her professional work in architecture, Cassidy has also been heavily involved in supporting emerging architects through leadership and industry engagement, helping create spaces where younger professionals feel connected, supported, and visible within the profession. And honestly, she's also one of those people who brings incredible energy into the rooms and communities she's part of. In today's conversation, we talk about why networking matters so much in architecture, how authentic relationships shape careers, and why networking becomes even more important when navigating a new city or country. Cassidy, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Samantha. Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So, to start at the beginning, what originally drew you to architecture?
A lot of people have these really nice stories about how they've wanted to be an architect since they were 5 years old. That was not me. I had no idea I wanted to do architecture until freshman orientation, actually, for college. I'd already decided where I was going and really didn't know what I wanted to do though. And I was walking around and looking at the buildings on my new campus and was like, I like buildings. And then I just had this, like, little bit of a light bulb moment, and I was like, "What if I did architecture?" And my mom was like, "You better hope that this school you've committed to has a good program," and luckily they did. So it feels like it was kind of kismet, you know? I ended up at a program in a really good program, I think because I was always meant to. And then my dad also does construction. So I'd spent a lot of time as a little kid after school at construction sites with him and realized that construction documents had kind of always been around and I'd just never quite been paying attention. So when it all came together, it really felt like it all clicked. And like many other people say, I've always loved more technical aspects of life, but I've also always been an artist. And it was a really great opportunity to kind of blend that creativity with a little bit more professionalism as well.
You've become someone who's very engaged in the broader architecture community, particularly around supporting emerging architects and women in the profession. Where did that passion for community building come from?
I think part of it came from the fact that getting into school and getting into the architecture program, I felt pretty behind. I had to apply to the program, and so I had to wait a year to start it. And then I was going part time because I was trying to become an in state student to lower tuition costs. So by the time I was really getting engaged with architecture, I was about a year and a half behind everybody else. And they also had all known they wanted to be architects since they were 5 and had taken drafting classes and knew AutoCAD. And I really realized I needed to figure out what I was doing. And I was like, "Okay, I gotta catch up somehow." And I realized that getting involved with some of the resources at my university was a really good opportunity for me. My local chapter of AIS, and so I kinda started there, and then I did get so much out of those opportunities that it always just kind of made me keep looking for them as I continued on with my journey.
And architecture can actually feel surprisingly isolating at times, especially early in your career. Did you ever experience moments where community or networking generally changed your confidence or career direction?
Yes, 100%. I think just to go back to college, it can be isolating because it's a small group of students and you're really spending all your time doing that. And I went to University of Oregon. There was 40,000 other kids that were a lot more free. They were not in studio all the time. So I think sometimes I felt kind of isolated just in that bubble of students. But then when I moved to Dallas, I really had no connections here, and trying to start a career, start figuring out who I was with nobody felt very scary. COVID also hit shortly after, and I was a COVID layoff, and realizing I got laid off in the middle of a pandemic and I don't know anyone in this city was scary and isolating. And it kind of made me think back to when I started architecture school and I was like, okay, where can I find resources? And I dove into AIA.
I think networking is one of those things architects often misunderstand. People hear the word and immediately think awkward events, business cards, or forced conversations. But in reality, networking often just means building genuine relationships over time. How do you personally think about networking?
I think of networking as meeting new friends. Honestly, like I love to go out and find other people that have shared interests as me. Like we're all in architecture because we think architecture is interesting. So right off the bat, we have something in common. And I think the fact that I approach it like these people are my friend or like they're going to be my friend is part of what makes me fairly successful at it as well. A quote that someone said to me that has really stuck with me is, "The best way to have people like you is to act like you like them, or just to genuinely like them." But everyone likes to feel like their presence is enjoyed and like, like they're being liked. If you show up and you're friendly and approachable and it's a little awkward, but you help carry the conversation, make that other person comfortable, they're gonna feel more comfortable, and then you formed a connection, and they look for you at events because if they feel like they're a wallflower, you're someone that will help them feel included, and suddenly you have a really good connection with somebody. So I think one of the best things about it is finding those people and bringing them in and then forming those genuine friendships with the people. And I have friends in Dallas architecture who are 30 years older than me now. You just have to find that thing that you have in common with them, and at least it's architecture, but it's normally gonna be something else as well. Um, and then you just go from there.
Was there ever a connection, conversation, or opportunity that significantly changed your career path?
There's been several, yeah. I got involved with the Dallas Design Awards, when I started getting involved with AIA. That was the first kinda committee I got involved with, and the chair at the time worked at Smith Group, which is where I work now. So I got to know him through Smith Group, and then through other moments with AIA, I met more people that worked there, and suddenly I had, like, several felt like friends, that worked there, and so when they started reaching out and asking if I'd want to work there, it felt really comfortable to transition right on over, and from, like, day 1, I already felt like I fit in with the company because I'd made those connections beforehand. I would say definitely meeting those people drastically shaped my career path.
Well, I can definitely see that you are one of those people. It doesn't matter where you are, you will definitely fit in just about anywhere.
Well, thank you.
One thing I've experienced personally moving countries is that networking becomes dramatically more important when you're new somewhere because your qualifications might not immediately speak for themselves. Your experience may need translation, and relationships often become the bridge into opportunities. What advice would you give to architects entering a new city or country where they don't know anyone?
Just get involved. Even if you go to an event and you're a wallflower, which is totally fine. I've been the wallflower at many an event. I know that's sometimes hard to believe because I can be very bubbly, but I've been a wallflower plenty of times. And but just showing up, you're bound to meet somebody, and now you have like a little bit more network than you did before. And there's going to be someone walking around the event greeting people. You will meet at least one person. You'll talk to at least one person. And you kind of just have to keep doing it, even though it might feel a little uncomfortable. But I've gotten to enough of those things that now when I go to events, I knew like half the people there. There was a time where I knew like literally zero people in this entire state. So you just kind of have to show up and start attending things, and then getting involved and finding what your little niche is gonna be.
So you touched on this a little bit. A lot of architects are naturally introverted or uncomfortable putting themselves out there. What would you say to someone who feels intimidated by networking?
That's a good question because I hear that from people a lot that they find it to be really awkward and really scary. Normally, you're the only person that's paying attention to what you're doing. If you're at an event and you feel like you're standing in a corner not talking to anyone, you're probably the only person noticing that. People aren't there looking at you thinking that you're weird and, why aren't you more talkative? So I think it's just kind of that fear of social anxiety, social pressure that holds so many people back. And so I think just kind of like I was saying, like jumping out and putting yourself out there will help with that. You kinda just gotta do it, frankly. Um, it's like jumping in the deep end of the pool, no one's really judging you as much as we all think that we're judging, and people are a lot more open to making more friends and making new connections. Everyone there is there to do that. They wanna meet you, they wanna talk to you.
Oh, great advice. You've also been passionate about supporting women in architecture. What are some of the challenges you still think women face within the profession today? And what gives you optimism about where the industry is heading?
I think one of the things that women still face in this industry is just that we are still somewhat newer to the industry. There's only 1 to 2 generations where it was common for women to go into architecture. And there is a lot more roadblocks for those couple of previous generations than there are now. So when you look at firm leadership, you still don't see a lot of women. You see a couple, but it's not 50-50. And so I think one of the roadblocks that still exists is just that there's not as many women making big, like company wide decisions, which, has an effect on the needs of women for maternity leave, or if they've left for a little while to raise children, they want to get back into the industry. Having representation who is in the position to be able to say yes to those situations helps a lot. And we're just not at a 50-50 in like large scale CEO power positions in the industry yet. But what gives me a lot of hope is the overwhelming number of women who are entering this industry and who are sticking it out. And I think that those women from a generation or two previously who have stuck it out and have managed to work their way up the ladder are being very vocal voices to try and do as much as they can. So I think it's getting better. And I think that within my generation, we're going to see those CEO positions be more 50-50, and that gives me a lot of hope. I also think that with the kind of social change to remote and hybrid work, I think that that's going to help with that a lot. I hear so many mothers who feel a lot more confident about their ability to stay in the industry because they work hybrid and that allows them to go drop their kid off at daycare or pick them up and just gives them more flexibility in their life that they wouldn't have otherwise. I think as we as a whole society are embracing work life balance and flexible work schedules, it's allowing those women to stick around.
Totally agree with that perception. And when you look back at your career so far, would you say networking has impacted your career more than you expected?
Yes, I would definitely say that networking has been more impactful than I expected it to be. Just this past December, I actually won a Dallas's Young Architect of the Year award, which was huge, and a really exciting honor.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's not something I ever would have expected myself to win, especially if you'd asked, me deciding randomly to pursue this as as an industry. A lot of that is from the connections I've made and the networking that I've made and the people I've met through that have helped pull me up behind them. Whether that's some really great mentors I have at my current firm, who want to sit down and explain something new to me, or people I've worked with in the past, or just met through the AIA who have really like championed me to take on more responsibility and to go for that next leadership position. And all of that is networking at the end of the day and has really helped me elevate as quickly as I have. So, and I wouldn't have thought that that would have been so impactful.
That's awesome. If a younger architect listening today wanted to start building stronger professional relationship, what practical thing could they do this month?
Ooh. They could attend an industry happy hour. There's at least locally, your AIA probably has a calendar of events going on. You could look it up, see some events that are happening, and choose to go to one. That's a great way to start. You could even just add people on LinkedIn who you're interested in and don't or, would like to learn from and don't just randomly add them, but like send a note saying, "Hey, I've saw that you worked on this really cool project and I'm interested in learning about it. Could I buy you a coffee sometime?" People are normally pretty receptive to that. And people always like to feel like their work is interesting. If you're interested in someone's work, let them know. Comment on the LinkedIn post, even if it's just a comment. There's also NOMA, National Organization of Minority Architects. They here in the DFW area are extremely active, but they're also nationwide. There's actually so many. A lot of them are subgroups of the area. There's a lot of, different conferences. I haven't had the opportunity to attend many just because they can be really expensive. I know there's a lot of really cool sustainability ones.
Quick pause here. If you're enjoying this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Your Design Passport. It helps more globally minded architects find this show. And if you're considering working internationally and don't want to feel like you're starting over, I've created a free guide called the International Architect Starter Map. It walks you through the exact strategic questions you should answer before touching a single application form. You can download that in the show notes. So tell me a bit more about the emerging leaders in architecture.
It's a year-long leadership program here in Dallas. It's the Emerging Leaders Program, that's the official title. And so it's for architects that are at least 5 years out of school. So a little bit of a buffer zone to actually have gotten like your feet wet in the industry and know a little bit. So it's a lot of people who are looking at making that next jump from, emerging professionals to emerging leaders and figuring out what it really means to lead a project or to be a leader within their firm. So it's a year-long program. We have a facilitator, Suzanne Smith, who's amazing. She comes and teaches class once a month. And so we touch on different sorts of leadership topics. And then the class as well works on several community service projects. So you get some practice actually leading a project if maybe you haven't done that before, or participating in a project in a different way than you do at work normally. So you get some different experience. And I was in the class in 2024 and then got chosen to stick around and be a vice chair for 2025. And now here in 2026, I'm the chair. So I'm running the program this year. And at the end of this year, I'll step down and someone else will step up as chair. But it's been so advantageous for me to make so many connections. There's about 20 to 25 people a year in that program. With this being my third year in the program, that's about 70 people that I've met through it. And because you meet up every month and in person for an afternoon, you really do form genuine friendships with those people. That's amazing, right? Like you see people switch jobs around and it's normally, "Hey, I'm not doing well where I'm at. Does anyone have a suggestion?" Or I don't know how to get over this hurdle that I'm dealing with. So it becomes almost kind of a support group. Sometimes that means someone's interested in leaving their job. Sometimes they're just working through something and trying to grow. But getting to hear everyone's different experiences, I think, has also really enlightened me for where I'm at in my career and where I'm trying to go, and things I either do or do not want to do. So it's been great just to have such open dialogue with people the last couple years.
And you mentioned that there were limited spots in that particular program. How do you apply for that and how do you put your best foot forward so that you surface to the top of the pool to be accepted?
A lot of the major firms around DFW have a process of picking who they're going to nominate because it is firm nominated. So if it's something you're interested in, I would ask your firm. I know that this program's here in Dallas, but there's many other chapters that have programs similar around the country. Um, but I would ask your firm leadership if there's anything like that and if they are interested in sponsoring somebody for it. I was at a firm that had never sent someone through the program before, but I knew I really wanted to do it. So I just kind of advocated for myself and filled out the application, wrote some essay questions. I will say this year, being on the other side, reviewing applications, we did see people using some AI, and that just didn't feel as genuine in some of their answers. The people who wrote answers for the application where it felt like they were genuinely excited to be there and engaged definitely rise to the top. You can tell when someone has their own voice and their own personality in their writing. And then I just kinda hoped for the best, and luckily I made the cut. But I put my best into it.
So, what were some of the telltale signs that someone had used AI?
Answering some of the questions like, "The top 3 issues facing the industry today are," and then it's, like, bullet pointed. Um, and a lot of the same responses to like the issue is sustainability. And of course sustainability is a major issue in our industry, but you can tell when someone's like, I'm passionate about sustainability because, for instance, I'm passionate about it. I grew up in Northern California, there's a lot of wildfires in that area, versus when it just starts listing kind of generic comments and stats. You're like, you didn't write this, AI wrote this.
And then you mentioned that the firm that you were at had never ever put someone through this process before. So, if you wanted to try and advocate for yourself, what is it that you need to take to your company so that you can put their mind at ease that it's not such a big task for them to nominate you?
I would say outline what the program is, what all it entails, what the commitment from the company would be. For me, it was I need half of a Friday once a month to go and attend this class. And can we work around that? And then also why you think it's going to be advantageous. I knew that I felt like I was going to grow, but also as someone that had gotten licensed very young and then was in a leadership position on projects very young. And I felt like I didn't have all the experience I needed to, frankly. So going through that program, I learned how to have a better voice and how to, stand up to people on CA calls and stuff like that a little bit better. How to not feel like I was an imposter in some of those situations. So I knew that I would grow, not like my technical knowledge. This program did not teach me how to draw a detail, but it did teach me how to have hard conversations. And so I think I knew I needed that, and I explained, I really think I would grow from this program. And ultimately, firms want to see their talent grow, and anyone who's advocating for themselves that they want to grow and going out and finding opportunities, I think firms are normally pretty receptive to that.
And if you had to take away or highlight one key takeaway or the most important thing that you have taken out of that particular program, what would that one thing be?
Oh, that is really hard. But I think it was for me personally that sometimes I feel like I need to have an answer or I need to fill the silence when they say, "Hey, can someone do this?" and there's that long pause. I've always felt like I needed to fill that silence and be like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Or have an answer when someone asks it. And I really learned that sometimes that eagerness is it's overworking myself because I've now volunteered to do 5 different tasks, but it's also taking away the opportunity for someone to learn by doing one of those things who's not as quick to raise their hand. So learning kind of to take a step back and when to take a step back and just to take half a second before talking or to say, I don't know that, but I will go figure it out and get back to you. I think has made me sound a lot more knowledgeable than it ever sounded to try and act right in the moment.
That is very, very wise words. That's actually something in Australia that they teach you, like, if you don't know the answer, don't say what it is. Don't kinda, like, walk outside of your line. If you are an architect, you only comment on architecture, you don't comment on structural or civil. Even if you may know the answer, it's like, "That is outside my field of expertise, I'll have to get back to you."
Yeah, I will circle back.
And then you mentioned that that program was for someone who was in, like, the first 5 years of their career. So if you look at someone like me who's come into the industry, I was well out of those 5 years of being an architect, maybe within 5 years of being an architect within the US. What other
Mhm.
avenues would you suggest for someone like me?
So the program's actually for someone with a minimum of 5 years of experience. They don't want people straight out of school just because you have to learn so much already in those first couple years. It's for someone with a minimum of 5 years. I was the youngest person in my program when I went through it, and I think I was 27, I'm thinking, when I went through it, and the oldest person in my program was in their early 40s. So we did have quite the age range in my year, and in the 2 years that I've seen since, we've still had kind of that age spread. They do also have advanced leadership, which is for people more senior, who are looking at how do I make decisions that affect an entire firm of people. For someone with more experience, that's probably a great avenue to get into. But I think there's also a lot of programs around leadership that are not necessarily directly tied to architecture. I know they have Leadership Dallas, which is citywide, and is something I would be interested in doing just to learn and meet people outside of just architects. So I do know there's quite a few programs like that around the Metroplex, and I would guess in most metropolitan areas.
All right, Cassidy, it's time for our signature moment, the passport stamp question. Think of your career as a passport. What's the stamp that changed you, shaped you, or surprised you the most?
I think one of the moments that really shaped me was getting licensed and getting licensed so young. I was 3 years out of college when I got licensed, which is quite a bit younger than the average, and I was so proud of myself. I'm the first woman in my family to graduate college, and to be in any sort of white collar career like this. And then going through those exams was really hard for me. I know some people fly through them, but I did not. And so I had dedicated so much of my life and I'd been so stressed trying to get through all of them. And when I finally completed them, I've never been more proud of myself. And then people I was working with at the time were all really happy for me and really excited for me, but were also fairly upfront shortly after me getting licensed that they didn't see me moving up anytime soon or taking on any more responsibility anytime soon. And that was so disheartening. I felt like I'd hit this huge milestone, and then people who I really looked up to didn't seem like they saw much in me. And although that was really sad, it also really made me kind of like pull myself up and be like, okay, well, then how am I going to direct things? I knew I had it in me. And I was like, okay, maybe they don't see it, but I see it. And I'm going to go figure it out for myself. And I did. I've been project architect. I've done big projects since. I've done skyscrapers since. I have figured it out on myself, but I think that was a really big turning point for me with being like, doesn't matter so much if everyone else thinks I can do it, as long as I know I can do it.
Well, that's amazing. I actually had a conversation with someone recently, Neil Pan, and he said that if there's a type of architecture out there that you really want to do and you like to do, and something that fits your personality, there is someone out there for you. You just need to continue knocking on those doors, and someone you'll find your happy architecture family somewhere.
You will, you really will. And you can spend all day trying to make people think like you, or you can just find people who think like you because they do exist.
And in terms of architectural typology, where have you found that you enjoy architecture the most?
So I'm currently doing higher ed projects, and I absolutely love that. I think I'm meant to be in that sector. It is also kind of ironic because if you remember my story at the beginning, it was when I was first walking around my college campus that I realized I thought I wanted to be an architect. But higher ed has really it has so much so many different types of buildings within it. There's rec centers and student unions and research labs, um, and lecture halls, dorm rooms, etc. So there's kind of always something new to be learning about. It's kind of a sector that has all sectors within it, which I find really exciting. There's also master planning elements to it with thinking about how you're going to lay out a campus or where these buildings should land. They're actually normally funded, which we love that, and they're fun. They show some school spirit. They're for people just like me a few years ago to kind of go figure out who they want to be in life. It's become my favorite thing, and I think I'm going to be in higher ed, hopefully there for the rest of my career.
Oh, that's amazing. And then one last question. I know that you said that you came from California. You obviously moved to Texas. How did you find that transition, and what did you think was like the biggest change that you found from going from California to Texas?
It was so shocking. So I grew up in Northern California in the foothills, really beautiful, mountainy. And then I went to college at University of Oregon. I'm a duck, shameless plug there, which also foresty and mountainy. And then moved to Texas without having ever been here before. I think people thought I was having some sort of breakdown, but I'm so glad I did it. I'd always been kind of the same bubble my whole life as far as culture and types of people and types of food. So moving to Texas was really eye-opening. There's no mountains here. That was really sad. The sky feels like it's a little too open. It gets really hot. I don't love summer here. But I've tried so many new types of food. I've met people with totally different upbringings and totally different views of life. And I like that. I want to meet people different than me and challenge me to see if I view things the way I do because I was taught that or because I really think that. It's been really good for me to go try something new. And maybe, we'll see where life takes me. But now I also feel really confident that I could move anywhere and I'd go get involved and I'd make some connections and I could build a life there too, wherever that might be.
Well, it's been an absolute joy speaking to you, Cassidy. Is there any general advice that you would like to give any new architects out there?
I think just listen a lot. Get into as many rooms as you can. Listen to what people are talking about. Try and push yourself a little bit further than you think you can go, but know when to ask for help. Always reach out to people and try and build those connections because this really is a mentoring industry. And so you need to have those strong connections so that not only you can learn, but that you can also pass on the knowledge behind you.
That's awesome. Well, Cassidy, thank you so much for sharing your perspective and your energy today.
Of course, it was so great being here with you.
Cassidy, thank you so much for sharing your perspective and your energy today. This conversation is such an important reminder that architecture careers are not built purely through technical skill or talent. They're built through people, through conversations, through community, through showing up consistently over time. Your design passport just got another stamp. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're following Your Design Passport and share this conversation with an architect or designer navigating their own career journey, especially if they're building a life in a new city or country. Because every project, every move, every connection adds another stamp to your professional passport. Until next time, keep sketching, keep dreaming, and keep building your global design career.